My name is Jake Proctor. I'm a sound designer and film mixer here in Utah. I've been working for roughly 11 years doing film productions, everything from local to things out in LA and everything in between. A lot of the challenges for creatures are finding different animal sounds that will cover the range of emotions that you have to hit. And that's usually one of my first questions, which is like, is this just a monster who's just always trying to get you, or are we gonna have happy and sad and hurt and angry and all those things, which it's a huge challenge to find a concoction of animal sounds that all play together that will form and hit all these emotions. That's by far the hardest part. You don't want the palette to be too big. I think that's when you get a little bit too vague, especially if there's multiple monsters in a movie. You want to find the creature's voice within, in my opinion, a handful of different animal sounds. And sometimes that's, one animal is great for the aggression and another animal is great for the pain or sadness or, and finding out how to blend and mix the two, I think is more important to find the right sounds emotionally than it is to make a cool sounding monster.
Are there ever times where you're using things that aren't animal sounds to make animal sounds?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all the time, from like rubber water bottles and my wet shoe on a brake pedal, all the time blending it. And then finding a way of processing it to where it sounds together. Sometimes that's just running it through a tape simulation or something that kind of glues it all together. But
As far like you've worked with a lot of filmmakers, you've worked on a lot of different projects of different like scales and whatnot. Like if a filmmaker doesn't have a lot of money to work with, but they still want to get like a great sound design, like where can they start with that?
a lot of it has to do with just a good partnership with a sound designer. And both of you have to be at the right place at the right time, But for me, I think the biggest mistake I see most often is just not collaborating with a sound designer in advance. Because I think having somebody who comes on and you talk to and knows the script before you start shooting might be able to recommend certain things that you can either do on set or off set to help save time and money, depending on all sorts of different variables, I think it's just about communication and realizing that like your sound designer's kind of the drummer and you want him to know what's going on ahead of time so that he's not trying to find the beat while the song's already been started. Yeah, I mean, I get approached more often than not after the film is already shot and edited and everything. And that's great. And that's great because as we did on Atomic Spawn, you can make it amazing. But sometimes your drummer might have a good idea of like, hey, if we stop right here for 2 measures and do this cool thing, it'll lead in. Those kind of conversations can be really impactful and really important early on. Whereas sometimes when somebody approaches me with a locked edit, it's like I don't feel comfortable suggesting that they unlock it. With every project, it seems like you have to find a common language. There's so many different terminologies and so many different ways of doing things that I think the easiest way is to like find common films that you both really love and appreciate. It becomes less about the right terminology and about like, hey, I'm talking about like in this movie during this scene, that sound, and they go, oh, okay, or this transition, or how the sound synced with the music in this movie.
Because I remember like when we did some of our initial talks to begin this project, like we were just talking about the movies we loved, and I could tell like Jake and I were on the same wavelength.
And I don't remember if you suggested that the monster should be congested, or if that was something that I suggested, but when we started working out how he was supposed to sound and how he was always just kind of like sneezing and sniffling, it felt like you and I kind of discovered it together at the same time and just had fun doing it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I still don't know what the sound you used for Atomic was, the monster. I still you. That's
Man. Well, I'm not supposed to say because as soon as I say, it might ruin the sound.
Let's not say. Then
Okay.
let's not say.
Okay.
It's a secret.
It's an endearing story, though.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for working on the Atomic Spawn.
Thanks for having me.